weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.
Hello, all you weirdos. Jim here, and we have breaking news. And if you clicked on this, you probably already know the big news is that Tom Taylor and Bruno Redondo will be leaving the Nightwing book after issue number 118. If my mathing is right, that probably is September. And we'll get back to that because a lot of things seem to be ending in September. But big news again, you have Tom Taylor and Bruno Redondo leaving the Nightwing book. And just a little bit of a personal background here. Dick Grayson and all of his iterations, my favorite character in all of comics. A lot of people say that I am a huge fan of Dick, and I am. I really am. So when you had the Rick Grayson debacle, and if you haven't read the Rick Grayson stuff, don't, okay? But it was a debacle. But I ended up reading and reviewing every single issue. I tried to find some positives in it. It was tough. It was like Sherlock Holmes here, but there was a couple little things that I may have liked. But I was as excited as everybody else to get Tom Taylor on Nightwing. And the first couple issues, I was all in. I thought it was great. Oh, my God, we have a writer who is really a fan of Dick Grayson, really wanting to show you how great Nightwing is. Everybody wants their favorite character to get that spotlight, right? But as each issue started going and you end up introducing the main villain, I don't know why, and maybe I do know why I put that in air quotes here, but Heartless shows up and Dick Grayson isn't really stopping him. And then it keeps going, and he's not stopping him. It's weird. And also in the Nightwing run, each issue felt like you weren't getting enough. They were quick reads. I had always said on our podcast, they were like empty calories, but it's one of those things. Some people like, the soda pops. It's sweet. It's nice. But afterwards, it doesn't fill you up. You want more. And that's how I felt with each and every issue. And it started to build and build and build along with the idea that Heartless wasn't being taken care of, even though every other character, including Superman, Wonder Woman, kept praising Dick Grayson for how much he changed and made Bloodhaven a great place, while Heartless in the background's just ripping out hearts and things like that. But one of the other things that kind of started to get to me, and if you listen to the podcast, this happened very early, where I said, Dick Grayson isn't doing anything himself. Everybody else is doing the heavy lifting. Everybody else is doing the dirty work. But then at the end, all praising Dick Grayson. And I said, at one point, it dawned on me that it felt like Tom Taylor was writing Nightwing as if he needed to be redeemed. But he didn't. But it felt that way. It felt like Tom Taylor was there to constantly, over and over, trying to convince me that Nightwing and Dick Grayson, he's a great guy. He's the best hero. And I kept shaking my head. I know. I already know. That's why I'm reading the book. That's why he's my favorite hero. So let's see him do something in the here and now, like take out Heartless. Even when you have a big story with Blockbuster, that gets taken care of by, lo and behold, Heartless. Everybody else, even the villains, are doing the heavy lifting, the dirty work. Then you end up going towards, say, the issue number 100, where you have prison reform stuff thrown in, but it's always just surface level nonsense. And again, let Dick Grayson do some things. Though with this whole run, I do think that a lot of new fans joined in. I hope they ended up reading some older Dick Grayson Nightwing as well, so they can get the full scope of things. And, one of the big things, if you are a fan, you have to be somewhat happy that Dick Grayson kind of got the shining light. He ends up being one of the most focused on characters in all of the DCU. Maybe some of the things that he was focused might not be the greatest, but it's cool to get your character elevated, but maybe not in the way that it was. But it's going to end. And I think there's going to be, two sides to this. There's usually two sides to every coin, is what I heard, except those three-sided coins. I avoid those, right? So you end up where some people are going to be sad. Oh, my God, I really like this. And when I say this, it feels like I'm bad-mouthing the book really a lot. It's a book that's easy to get into if you've never read Dick Grayson. I mean, it's fine that it's a book that shows you, the hero, he's happy, everybody loves him, and at the end, everything works out for him. But it's the other people, and maybe the middle, because there's going to be the Tom Taylor haters that are just going to be like, this is great, whatever. I'm not going to do any judgment here fully until I see who the next creative team is. That's really going to be where I'll start thinking if this is good, bad, or indifferent. But I'm kind of in the middle. The idea that I like the focus on Dick Grayson, but I need more. And hopefully that's what we'll end up getting. But again, I'm just talking about myself because I'm kind of a selfish prick, is what I hear. That might be trademarked. But here is the story, because what happened was Bruno Redondo ended up doing an interview on DC's website to push this new arc, final arc, Fallen Grayson. And he revealed that it would be their last arc. And it says, Bruno Redondo revealed in an interview on DC's website that him and Tom Taylor would be leaving Nightwing after issue number 118. Redondo was there to promote the beginning of their upcoming final arc of the series, Fallen Grayson. And here is his quote, which I like. It will make many people sad, Redondo said of the new 5-part storyline, but it'll also build one last ride, full Tom and Bruno. And yes, he just talked about himself in the third person as if he was Ricky Henderson, and I love it. If we are going to end this, and every long arc needs to find its end, we are going to make it in a big way. And you end up having this arc described by DC as, quote, the culmination of Heartless's sabotage of Nightwing. Now, it's a weird play, too, because we're at this point, I think it was right at issue number 100 or a little after. It made it seem like Tom Taylor was trying to fudge the timeline as if Heartless had just shown up weeks before, because I think that people were starting to really push back on the idea, oh my God, Dick Grayson, he's not doing anything about the serial killer. So in the book, it's like, oh man, these last couple of weeks since Heartless showed up, it's been real tough. So when you end up having this, they're going to, I think, try to make it seem epic, like it has been this big building story, but you're already kind of said it's been kind of condensed. It's weird, but it continues here. And they say, with actually a quote from Tom Taylor, when Bruno Redondo and I first took on the series, Tom Taylor explained, we felt it was the perfect time for a big Nightwing story. And it was. We wanted to show the world why Dick Grayson was an A-lister in our eyes. There's where you see he hasn't gotten away from that. That might be good for the first arc. Because once you become the A-lister, it feels weird when you keep pushing the idea that we have to show that he's an A-lister. It's weird. It was the right time for a charming, entertaining, positive force for good. And I agree with all this, but I keep thinking in my head that that has to go to a point where you accept, hey, I made it. Let's go, Dick Grayson, boom. But pushing back against corruption and greed. It was also time for Dick and Babs to get a puppy. It's always going to throw that in. Tom Taylor is really good at getting that thing that he wants to make sure that everybody likes so he can keep going back. And of course, it's Haley, the puppy, who I really do love myself. But it's this whole thing. And then also, just to point out, DC also said, and this kind of makes me roll my eyes and I hate this, Nightwing ended up, because of Heartless, lost his ability to leap, impeding his duties to be the superhero we know and love. We saw that in the Pirate Times arc. He was going to jump and save B, but he couldn't leap, and but then he did. So this ability, losing the ability to leap. I lost the ability to leap myself. You know what caused it? Not Heartless. Father Time is what, but I could still leap to a lot of conclusions, most of them wrong. So I still have that. But yeah, the idea that, oh my God, what should we do? What would really stop Dick Grayson? What would make him, oh wait, he's an acrobat? Well, he won't be able to leap. That is ridiculous. That is completely and utterly ridiculous. The idea that he lost his ability to leap. Can't play leapfrog anymore. He's done. It's one of those things. I guess Bruce is like, well, the father-son picnic. I'm not going to get you. We could still do the 3-legged race, but we can't leapfrog. I'm out. So ridiculous, right? Leaping. But I'd love to hear what people think. I already said I'm not going to fully say, oh my God, this is the greatest thing, because you then could end up, that bites you in the ass when you find out the next creative team, oh my God, it's my least favorite writers. Oh my God, they're doing this. So I'm going to reserve judgment. This is what I usually do, all in all, when something like this comes up. I think that the run will be looked back at as a positive thing, but most people will just say, oh, that's that run with Heartless and Dick Grayson not doing anything. But I think it's one of those, I said it's empty calories. I think it's kind of going to be lost in the shuffle overall, but it'll be looked at as a kind of a rebirth a bit for Dick Grayson after the Rick Grayson. It actually is that play. The Tom Taylor Nightwing run is elevated because of what it came after. You know, it's like the Lou Gehrig deal. It's better than what it was. So you have that. But back to what I said at the beginning, this seems like it's going to end in September, around September. And this is something I've been telling people, like, it's very weird. If you look at some of these announcements, one of them, Ram V, his run's going to end kind of around September-ish. And everything else seems to be either ending in the summer or around that September deal. And we know there's going to be a big event, the big Amanda Waller event in the summer. And I know that people don't like the idea of reboots. And DC Comics, while people will claim they reboot a lot, they half-step it a lot. They Big Daddy Kane or anti-Big Daddy Kane, they half-step everything. So things are kind of a reboot. Oh, it's a rebranding. It's this, it's whatever. But to get the hype up, a lot of times you would use a reboot. But I don't think they're going to do that. So don't yell at me yet. But what would get people excited is if around September, after the big event, when, say, a new creative team on Detective Comics, new creative team on Nightwing, it looks like you have Chip Zdarsky heading towards an end in Batman. If you do hit with all new number ones, new creative teams, not a reboot, but just new volumes of all the that gets people excited. That gives people all these jumping on points, and that's what we need. I mean, we need a lot more than that. I'm going to do a video on things that I think DC desperately needs. But to get some hype up, to get some eyes on these books, get some great creative teams, and start with new volumes at one time, and everybody gets the hype up. So we'll see. But again, this is all about Nightwing and the end of the Tom Taylor, Bruno Redondo run at issue number 118. Tell me what you think. Are you excited about the possibility of a new creative team? Or are you sad because you like this run? No judgment. I just want to hear what people think. But that's that. Thanks, everybody, for listening. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. We have a bunch of reviews, DC, Marvel, and a little bit of the indie, possibly some manga coming up. Who knows? The world is our oyster, as they say. But thanks, all you weirdos. I'm going to get out of here, and I will talk to you all later.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.